Mama FADEKE'S Bewitched Stew, Part 1. Mama FADEKE'S Bewitched Stew. Story. Once upon a time, the marketplace in the village of Oja was always alive with sounds and smells, from the cries of traders selling their wares to the scent of spices that hung heavy in the humid air. But no stall was more popular or feared than that of Mama FADEKE. She was a large, imposing woman, her face always glistening with sweat, and her hands perpetually stirring the large pot that simmered over an open fire. Mama FADEKE'S stew was legendary. People traveled from distant villages just to taste it, but there was something unsettling about the way her customers never returned the same. Mama FADEKE as a gift, some would say, their eyes gleaming with admiration. Others whispered darker rumors: she stirs more than meat and vegetables into that pot. Beware of her food. Despite the whispers, people still came, drawn by the irresistible aroma that drifted from her stall. Her large figure, wrapped in layers of brightly colored fabric, was a permanent fixture in the market. She rarely spoke but was always watching, her small, dark eyes seeming to peer into the souls of those who dared meet her gaze. She ladled out her stew with a strange smile, watching carefully as her customers ate. Adoni, a young woman from a nearby village, had heard the tales of Mama FADEKE'S famous stew but had always been too afraid to try it. She had lost two cousins who'd visited Mama FADEKE'S stall. Both had fallen mysteriously ill shortly after returning home, and neither had ever recovered. Their eyes had gone dull, and they no longer spoke of their visit to the market. But when her mother fell gravely ill, Adoni became desperate. The local herbalist had tried everything, yet nothing worked. Her mother's skin grew pale, and her once vibrant spirit seemed to drain with each passing day. One afternoon, as she sat by her mother's bedside, a neighbor approached her. "There's only one way to save her," the old woman said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. "Mama FADEKE. Her stew can heal." Adoni recoiled at the suggestion. She had always been wary of the market cook, and the tales of her bewitched stew were too many to ignore. But as she looked at her mother's withered form, she realized she had no choice. She couldn't bear the thought of losing her. The next morning, she made the journey to Oja. The market was bustling as always, but as she neared Mama FADEKE'S store, the world seemed to grow quieter. The smell of the stew filled the air, thick and heavy, almost choking in its intensity. There she was, Mama FADEKE, standing over her enormous black pot, stirring slowly with a long wooden spoon. Adoni hesitated as she approached the store. Mama FADEKE looked up, her eyes meeting Adoni's with an unsettling intensity. "What do you seek, child?" the woman asked, her voice deep and slow, like honey dripping from a spoon. Adoni swallowed hard, her palms sweating. "My mother. She is very ill. They say your stew can heal." Mama FADEKE'S lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. "Many come for healing," she said, ladling out a bowl of the thick, dark stew. "But few understand the price." Adoni's heart raced. She had heard of the price Mama FADEKE charged, but no one ever spoke of it openly. Some said it was money, others whispered it was something far more sinister. But at that moment, all Adoni cared about was saving her mother. "What is the price?" Adoni asked, her voice barely a whisper. Mama FADEKE'S eyes gleamed. "You will know when it is time," she said cryptically, pushing the bowl of stew toward her. "Take it. Feed it to your mother before sunset, and she will be healed." Adoni hesitated, but she had come too far to turn back now. She took the bowl, its warmth seeping into her trembling hands, and hurried out of the market. The weight of Mama FADEKE'S gaze followed her as she left. Back at home, Adoni prepared the stew just as Mama FADEKE had instructed. Her mother was too weak to protest as Adoni spooned the dark, savory broth into her mouth. As the last of the stew disappeared, Adoni sat back, her heart pounding in her chest, waiting for something, anything, to happen. At first, Nothing. The minutes dragged on, and Adoni's fear began to rise. Had it all been a lie? Was her mother too far gone for the stew to work? But then, slowly, color began to return to her mother's cheeks. Her breathing steadied, and within the hour, she was sitting up, her eyes bright and clear for the first time in weeks. Adoni's heart swelled with relief. Mama FADEKE'S stew had worked. Her mother was healed. But the relief was short-lived. That night, Adoni awoke to a strange sound. It was a soft whispering, like wind through dry leaves, coming from the kitchen. She crept out of bed, her heart racing, and followed the sound. The kitchen was dark, but the whispering continued, growing louder and more insistent. As she stepped into the room, the air turned cold, and the whispering stopped abruptly. Her mother stood in the middle of the kitchen, her back to Adoni. She was stirring a pot, though there was nothing in it, mimicking the slow, deliberate movements of Mama FADEKE. Adoni's blood turned to ice. "Mother," she called softly. Her mother turned slowly, but it wasn't her mother's eyes that met Adoni's. They were dark, empty, and hollow, like the eyes of a corpse. A twisted smile spread across her mother's face. "Mama FADEKE'S stew has bound us," she said in a voice that was not her own. "The price has been paid." Adoni stumbled back, her mind racing. She had saved her mother's life, but at what cost? The truth hit her like a blow. Mama FADEKE'S stew didn't just heal, it claimed. The lives it saved were no longer their own, they belonged to her. Desperate, Adoni rushed back to the market the next day. The market was as lively as ever, but Mama FADEKE'S stall seemed darker, more ominous. She stood there, stirring her pot, her smile knowing as Adoni approached. "What have you done?" Adoni demanded, her voice trembling with rage and fear. "My mother is not herself." Mama FADEKE'S smile widened. "She is mine now," she said simply. "The stew binds those who consume it. They live, but they live through me." Adoni's heart pounded in her chest. "I want her back," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Mama FADEKE chuckled softly. "You asked for her life, and I gave it. The price is hers now, as it will be yours, should you eat my stew." Adoni felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She knew there was no escaping Mama FADEKE'S power. The stew was more than food, it was a spell, a curse that bound those who consumed it to the witch who stirred the pot. As Adoni backed away from the store, she realized with growing horror that she was not the first to make this mistake, and she would not be the last. The villagers, lured by the promise of healing, would continue to come, drawn into Mama FADEKE'S web. And the stew would continue to claim them, one by one. That night, as the sun set and the market emptied, Mama FADEKE'S laugh echoed through the air, mingling with the smell of her bewitched stew. The market would thrive, but beneath its surface, dark magic simmered, waiting for its next victim.